Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Another day, another opportunity for Cathie Wood to purchase more shares of Palantir. She has just purchased 634,971 shares, about 50,000 in the ARK KK fund and about 591,000 in the ARK Q fund, bringing her total to about 1.6 million shares across 5 buys over the first 2 weeks of January 2022. Now, because this has been 5 big buys over the past 2 weeks, we're going to go into the ARK ETFs, the family of catalog ETFs that she has, and we're going to go individually into each of the ETFs and see how she's been buying the stock, historically, what she's been doing to buy the stock, and sort of the momentum in which she chooses to buy and chooses to sell. Note that she sold about 1.78 million shares of Palantir at the very end of December, and it was really weird because she bought a lot of Palantir, basically around the same amount, about 1.7, 1.8 million shares, from the dip from 29 down to around 21. This was after Q3 earnings and end of November 2021, and the entire market started to fall apart. She sold all of it at around 1850-ish at the end of December, so we kind of got the meme of like buy high, sell low, and it was primarily because she had to redistribute funds to investors, had to balance the entire ETF. It was explicit that she's had to sell off a lot of stock at the end of November 2021. So it kind of made sense that she was doing this. The cool thing, though, is that it was a good decision given where the macro level markets started to play, because it went down from 1850 to lows of 1530 as of yesterday, which was one of her biggest buys. So the buy high, sell low strategy actually worked out because she ended up selling at a decently higher price to buy it at a much lower price, and actually bought about 1.6 million more shares over the past couple of weeks, filling up the sort of balancing out the 1.7 that she sold at an even lower cost basis. So before we get into the ETFs, I want to show everyone 2 pictures that are really, really important to understand, to see what's going on in the macro level economy. And it makes Cathie's buys a little bit more significant to me because she's choosing to make these purchases in the face of extreme blood that's going on, especially with Palantir, as it had its worst day yesterday when she made a 600,000 share buy. So let's look at some of the highest growth technology companies. We have Bill.com, we have MongoDB, we have CrowdStrike, we have Shopify, Fairtech, Red, Tesla, Nvidia, TradeDex, Monday.com, Five9, DocuSign, Stitch Fix. All of these high growth technology platforms, even big caps like Meta Platforms, which is basically Facebook, Datadog, obviously Palantir at the top. All of this stuff is red. It's just declining and declining and declining year to date. We're seeing how far it's down. Then we look at the next picture. Where is all that money going to? We have Kellogg, Campbell Soup, the Hershey Company, Kraft Heinz, PepsiCo, Unilever, B&G, Treehouse Foods, Philip Morris. All of these companies, General Mills, are companies that we would like to call traditional value plays. So we're seeing a very obvious rotation from all this growth, all this red, down to all of this green. So, you may be thinking in the next 5 years, is PepsiCo, going to be more valuable than something like a Palantir or a Shopify? I don't know, probably not, but this is the sort of Warren Buffett index. This is why Berkshire Hathaway, his index is up a lot more than Cathie Wood's ARK, because we see the sector rotation happening. So I wanted to show this because it kind of amplifies some of the buys that she's making, because even though there's this massive macro level sector rotation that's happening from growth into value, and it's very obvious in the numbers, she is choosing to continuously buy the dip on some of the largest holdings that she has. Now let's go into the actual ARK holdings. We're going to get a chart here on the historical price movement that's been happening with the Palantir shares. So she started buying really around February 2021. And this is when I started to notice. I remember, like, I checked the index and she had bought like 400,000 shares of Palantir. And I was interested in the time, but I wasn't as deep as I was now. And every day I kept checking, this kept happening, right? Like, it just kept going up and up and up. And I was just like, I didn't even know who Cathie Wood was at the time. I knew she had like a name, but I was just like, what is wrong with this woman? Like, why is she buying so many shares of this company? And it kept going up and up and up. And then it kind of stabilized around this time. So as you can see, on July 8th, 2021, she had about 22 million shares and her price was around $23. And then it goes up and up and up. As we can see, it's going up and up and up. And then here in December, she has about 24 million shares, or 25, and this is where we see the dip happen, right? This is where she had to do some of the massive sell-offs. She keeps selling off, and then we get here, and now we see some of the bigger buys by which she's selling, right? So here, all in January, this is where we see some of the bigger buys happen, and her cost average is reducing every time that she is buying the stock from that perspective. As we can see, the major 3 biggest buys, 40,000, 249,000, and 430,000, all in the ARK ETF. As you can see, we had about I would say 7.4. We can round up 1.75 million shares that were sold off right at the end of December. She's purchased, to my calculations, about 1.6 million over the past couple weeks. So she's kind of basically made back everything she sold off, which is one of the big takeaways I want to have is here, because having this video, because when everyone said she was selling off, there's a lot of scare and panic, and she's going to constantly be selling it. Like if it gets to 30, 40, 50, you're going to see shares of Palantir sell off unless she really, really does think long-term and treating it like Tesla and is just buying it even when it's higher because she thinks it's going to go exponentially more. But that was really a rebalancing, and now she's getting to be able to buy back at much smaller prices. If we look at the ARK-G fund, you can see there the last buy she had here was November 9th, 2021. Again, Palantir is one of the only stocks that is part of all 6 of the family of ETFs, meaning that all 6 ETFs focus on different things, whether it's fintechs, genomics, general innovation, etc. And ARK feels that Palantir plays a role in each one of those sectors. That's why I'm very bullish on the company as well, because I think each one of those sectors has a chance to do well for it. So as you can see, the cost average for this ETF is about $24, very high at 1.6 million shares, because she's not adding that many shares to this ETF, which is why the cost average is so high. Let's go to the next one, ARK-Q. This is the one that she recently just added to. As you can see, we have this big dip, big reach right here, right? So she has about 2 million shares in this, and then it goes up to about 3 million shares with the cost average of about $22. And we can see some of the bigger buys that have been happening here all throughout the month of January. 364,000, 189,000, and 591,000 as per the past three buys in January. Now, the weight rank in ARK-Q is 14. The weight rank across all funds of Palantir is about 17. So out of everything and all the stocks and all the companies that she owns, 17 is the weight rank for Palantir. It's the 17th highest, biggest stock. We can then go into this one. This one has been more sold off. This is when she had to do the big sell-off. But this is another fund, ARK-W, in which she has it. And as you can see here, she has about 3.7 million shares of Palantir as of January 7th. You can click on ARK-F. This is the fintech fund. They have around 1.7 million shares at a cost average of 22. So she hasn't added to this one in a while. So a lot of this stuff was being done in September or August. This is when the prices were at like 23, 24, 25, 26 even. So this one's going to have a higher average. And then we have the ARK-X fund. Here she's been adding about 414,000 shares, or so she has a total of 414,000 shares, and she's been adding from December to January here. And we have a bunch of buys coming in on this one. January 3rd was the last one, about 77,000 shares that she had. So my key takeaway here for what is happening right now is that Palantir is dropping to astronomically low levels. Yesterday we saw it go from around 1670 to around 1538, I think was the lowest that it peaked, and then it bounced to about 1650. I think the pain is not over. I do think there is a chance for this to go even lower. Now, for 15.3, I think sounds absolutely ridiculous as a price, which is why I think yesterday was the biggest buy. The key for the Cathie analysis here that I'm taking away is that on the days when it rips the hardest, she is not afraid to pull the trigger, right? And we know she's generally not afraid to pull the trigger, but this stock in particular hitting new all-time lows, it's reassuring that the fund that is the most actively invested in it, that really does believe it's going to be one of those companies, if you've seen any of their analysis on Palantir, that potentially has a chance to take over the world, is actively buying the hardest dips. And it's hard for Cathie to probably do that, right? Because the entire pressure of the world is breathing down her neck. If you saw her latest breakdown in her podcast, and I did a reaction video to it where I kind of summarized the 49 minutes she made me sit through to listen to what she had to say in about 15 minutes, she feels very confident, right? Like you would think the weight of the world and pressure is on her. She has put the pressure on herself to say, I'm going to get an average compounded annual rate of return of 40% over the next 5 years, which is kind of insane for someone to say that. Like that doesn't happen, 40% year over year, but she feels that these stocks are in such deep value territory and the market just literally does not understand what's going on, that there is going to be a massive bubble collapse that is happening in value stocks, all the stocks that I showed you that the rotation was happening from, and that's going to go right back into growth. And when it does go back into growth, because she's buying the dip at such historically low prices, that is what's going to give her the estimate of a 40% annual rate of return, because she's buying them in what she calls deep value territory, meaning because they are so hated by the market and they're basically getting so decimated by the market for no good reasons, while value stocks are being pumped up for no good reason, there is a chance that once the market really realizes what's going on, that rotation is going to be a phenomenal explosion of growth for those stocks. If that happens, that's going to be an amazing thing to see, because it means that she was right on her thesis this entire time. And for someone to be right on this thesis, it shows a level of excellence in terms of her and her team's ability to really see what's going on in the market, really see what's going on with individual stocks, and then really make a full macro level bet that this is going to happen over this. It's essentially a prediction based upon a lot of facts and research. And then for that to play out and for shareholders to be rewarded either of the ETF or individual stocks is a pretty fascinating thing. So interesting to see how everything is going to turn out. Cathie Wood buys another 630,000 shares of Palantir. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next one.